I am here with Melanie today of Glaze Craft Windows, and we're going to talk about how she preserves her brushes. So, when I was first starting out, I hated using oil paint because one of the problems was like, well, what do I do with the brushes? Like how do I keep them ready to go the next day? And I didn't want to use a new brush every day. So we were talking about linseed oil paint over a beer, and sure enough, she had, well, all I do is I just dip them in linseed oil, and I was like, what? So here we are. So it's like, oh, we got to videotape this. So basically, we're just going to show Melanie's process of how she, is able to use her brush day after day, and it's a really cool system. So basically, you've got some jars here. And then you've got the paintbrushes sticking into them. So tell me your process here.
Right, so with linseed oil paint, with any oil paints, you're going to be painting with a natural bristle brush.
Okay.
Like something like this. And typically at the end of the day, I will wipe off any excess paint off of my brush onto a towel or onto some sort of cardboard or paper. And then I just suspend it into a jar of raw linseed oil. Up until the bristles, so they're fully covered.
Very cool.
Over time, even overnight, the paint will drop to the bottom of the jug, and primarily you'll just see mostly oil in the brush itself.
So basically you have one jar for your primer, one jar for each color that you're using.
Yeah, you can mix them together. I prefer not to. I just don't want to make sure the pigments don't get too mixed together.
It's a beautiful brush, by the way.
Yeah.
Look at this.
When I'm ready to get started the next day, then I pull it out of the raw linseed oil and again brush out any excess oil. And then I dip it back into my paint and get back to work.
Okay, cool.
And I can store them like this sort of indefinitely.
Yeah.
I may clean them out on occasion, just maybe at the end of a project, or if I want to store them dry longer term.
So if you wanna store it dry, what would your process be?
So after removing any excess oil.
So, you finish the project.
Yep. Any excess paint, any excess oil. Then I'm going to use one of two types of soap. Typically, this is known as crystal brown soap, and this is linseed oil soap. And either of those work really well to clean out the brush. And you would just run it under warm water with this soap. And that will get all of the excess out. And then you can let it dry.
And you let it dry, wipe it out, and then you store it dry. And then what's your linseed oil here? It's from...
So my linseed oil supplier is Brooms & Co.
Okay.
And this is the highest quality linseed oil you can find. This is not what you will find in your Home Depot or your home center.
Okay.
That is actually not boiled. It's chemically treated. So when you're working with linseed oil, you'll always want to seek out the highest quality linseed oil.
Right. And there's a couple of online distributors for that, both in US, UK, and probably Europe.
Yeah, for both getting oils and paints and soaps and anything you might need to use the linseed oil system.
And the brushes?
And the brushes.
Yeah, okay. Now, if I was running late and I didn't have the brush and I needed to run to a big box hardware store, you would just look for an oil-based paintbrush, right? Yeah, natural bristle brush. All right, now the other cool thing I wanted to show was your own homemade way to hold some of these. So we've got hair ties, we got some clips, I like this, some binder clips.
Yes, and that's also that the bristles don't sit on the base. I don't want to misshape the bristles when they're resting. I just want them to suspend.
Where did you get these mason jars with the cork tops?
You can get any mason jar at your grocery store or your hardware store. But then I bought the cork tops online. There was an Etsy supplier who makes these especially for mason jars. And then I used a drill and some bits to actually create holes of different sizes.
Very smart. You don't by any chance remember that Etsy, do you?
I could give it to you later.
Okay, maybe we can include a link. All right, cool. Or you could probably cut some cardboard out, but that's really neat. Okay. Or Google mason jar cork top.
Yeah, and there are so many different ways you can do this. You can also put clips on a wall and have a jug of water and you just kind of slip it into the clips. I've seen it done a lot of different ways. But the key thing is to spin the brush.
And the linseed oil. All right, cool. All right, well, thanks for showing us this. I just thought it was really clever, so I wanted to go over this. All right, thanks.